Su nombre es Gloria Evangelia Anzaldúa, and before her death she became known for explaining the southern border lifestyle to the others, los que no son ni de aquí ni de allá. It is the year 1942, and America has been fighting alongside the world for almost 12 months. Gloria is born September 26th of that year during a time of war. Her family had a long history of living in Texas, with Gloria being a seventh-generation Texan. Under her parents, she would work the land growing up. She would continue her education after graduating and have both a bachelor's and master's by the age of 31 in 1973. After earning her degrees, Anzaldúa would go on to encourage the teaching of feminist and Chicano work and thought throughout various graduate schools. The period of writing that Anzaldúa falls under would be postmodernism, and it reflects most of her writing in that she can draw from three different experiences with the use of her languages: English, Spanish, and Spanglish. Her most renowned work, filled with various essays, was published in 1987 titled Borderlands, La Frontera, the New Mestiza, and is praised for its defiance in purposely writing with two languages. One of these short essays within her book is titled How to Tame a Wild Tongue. How to Tame a Wild Tongue is the expression Anzaldúa uses for how she faced criticism with both of her languages, English in an educational setting and Spanish in her personal life. She uses both of these languages to describe these memories she has of being imperfect to the others. Being a female, Anzaldúa has noticed the linguistic pressures Spanish places on her that would not be said to another Chicano male. Because of these unsaid Spanish rules, Anzaldúa explains that Chicanos have come to create their own language living near the border of not being able to express themselves neither through English nor Spanish. With Chicano Spanish specifically, Anzaldúa gives various examples of how pronunciations are different from other forms of Spanish. She also lists many words that Chicanos use that are not Spanish but English loanwords, made to transition between the two languages easier. There is a fear that Anzaldúa points out that stirs inside Chicanos by having the association of speaking incorrect Spanish, hurting their existence of being bilingual. With urgency, Anzaldúa hopes Chicanos fight pride with the ways they identify with their inherited culture to protect their existence and shared identity. The short essay Anzaldúa has written is an experience of being the other, a rejection from both sides, and an acceptance of that rejection forward into an identity. The structure of her text includes italicizing the Spanish phrases amongst her English sentences. Her refusal to translate or make the entire sentence one language reflects this identity of the Chicano and makes it visible to the reader by the use of those italics. By visually differentiating the two languages, it further pushes her narrative how different those two languages are, yet it can still exist. It's okay for it to exist. Anzaldúa's metaphor at the beginning of the short story helps paint the picture of this narrative, and I wanted to analyze some of the wording. "We're going to have to control your tongue," the dentist says, pulling out all the metal from my mouth. Silver bits plop and tinkle to the basin. My mouth is a mother lode. The dentist is cleaning out my roots. I get a whiff of the stench when I gasp. "I can't cap that tooth yet. You're still draining," he says. "We're going to have to do something about your tongue." I hear the anger rising in his voice. My tongue keeps pushing out the wads of cotton, pushing back the drills, the long thin needles. "I've never seen anything as strong or as stubborn," he says. There is a lot of symbolism and allegories that could be drawn from the use of a dentist setting, such as there being meaning behind the dentist being an English-speaking individual concerning himself or Anzaldúa's mouth, which just represents her improper language. Or how this could be an allegory to how many young Chicanos' first personal experience of the English language is with a doctor, where they are put in a situation of hoping that the doctor is helping them. But I want to further reflect on some of these lines as well. So this English-speaking dentist is trying to fix her mouth, and these metal pieces are meant to be the defects of speaking Spanish. This includes her accent, her excess Spanish vocabulary, mixing up Spanish and English grammar. Anzaldúa is describing her mouth as a mother lode here because it is the cause of her troubles with the dentist and the support of her identity. Her mouth, which does not restrain her from speaking Spanish or English, is what people choose to criticize her for when not acting more of one culture, for not choosing a language. The stench she smells that makes her gasp is a reflection on how later on she mentions the shame present in the Chicano community, We find no pride in not being able to stick to one language, so we cringe at the stench our mouth produces. Anzaldúa continues to resist this erasure of what the dentist finds as an imperfect language. She resists because there is no way to remove the two present cultures found in Chicanos. There is no way to forget either one without being a Chicano. Gloria Anzaldúa is important to the American literary canon for her push of feminist and Chicano experiences. She has addressed the specific demographic of the United States who live in a culture defined by being one of the southern border, a demographic who cannot fully relate to either of the ideals found in a Mexican or American literary canon. By using both English and Spanish in her short essay, Anzaldúa is reaching to those who identify with bilingualism and sharing that experience with others. Anzaldúa also presents the push of feminism for Chicanas across the U.S. Because English is not a gendered language, Anzaldúa encourages specifically Chicanas to oppose the wording in the Spanish language that favors men. These faults and experiences are unique to the Chicano community and are not replicable, making her works connect and inspire a community that struggles to find their identity when understanding the American literary canon. The Legacy of Gloria Anzaldúa, Finding a Place for Women of Color in Academia, written by Melissa Castillo Garceau, is an essay that covers Anzaldúa's influence in academia. Castillo describes the reasoning behind Anzaldúa joining the academic world to outprove the races that surround the education scene and how she defined its standards by switching between languages. Through her known presence, Anzaldúa has pushed for this academic world to be less formal, to accept various types of languages, and push the boundaries of the English-speaking audiences. Castillo notes that Anzaldúa's use of indigenous icons in her writings, such as Aztec deities, also is a push for the Chicano community to not be afraid to mix reality and spirituality together. That it should not concern them what either side of their culture believes of this spiritual understanding. Anzaldúa, choosing to write against traditional standards of the white academic world, announces the presence of those of color who, like her, will continue to change the academic writing scene. When Anzaldúa passed away in May of 2004 in her California home, she did not take with her two opposing cultures. Se llevó la alma imperfecta de ser una chicana orgullosa.